NetsBoy, so let's hear what he has to say. His name is NetsBoy, he thinks the world is all over when the Nets just can't play.
What up, Net fans? NetsBoy here, bring your latest in your Brooklyn Nets news. Okay, we've got a lot to go over today. We got to talk about Game 3 and, more importantly, Game 4 and just this whole series as a whole. We got to talk about the Jared Dudley, Ben Simmons stuff. We got to talk about the Embiid things, the play of Karis LeVert, all this stuff. We got a lot to go over, so let's dive right in. Nets, unfortunately, lost the last two games, 3 and 4, in Brooklyn. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about Game 3 just because the fact that there's not a lot to say. The biggest takeaway from Game 3 is simple. Nets played like crap. LeVert was the only one who played well. No one really did anything at all, really. That's really worth praising other than LeVert. Their defense was atrocious. Embiid didn't even play, which kind of makes the 76ers a little bit more of a different type of dangerous team. Like, they're dangerous with Embiid, but when Embiid plays, he's such a talented player and such a good player that he demands the ball and demands the attention. And that sometimes takes away from the other great players on the 76ers. The Ben Simmonsons, the Tobias Harris, J.J. Redick, those guys, Jimmy Butler. It kind of takes away from those guys when Embiid is playing. And when Embiid doesn't play, you see more of a free flow of the offense, which is why Game 3, I feel like, went the way it went. Because J.J. Redick was unguardable. Tobias Harris had a great game. Ben Simmons came out angry because of the things that Jared Dudley said. And the whole team, and Jimmy Butler just was there doing his thing. So the whole 76ers team played really well in that Game 3. Nets did not have an answer. Harris really, really struggled. Dinwiddie was okay. Russell was okay. LeVert played well. Allen struggled with the size. The Nets went small. Even without Jared Allen did not play well in that game either. Even without Embiid dominating, Boban had a great game. I thought it was really funny that Greg Monroe was the starter, right? Did anyone else find that very, like comical? Since, all I've been talking about is how I wish the Nets still had Greg Monroe, and he ended up starting. I didn't even know he was on the 76ers. I actually had no idea who he ended up signing with when it was all said and done. Obviously, he signed with the 76ers later on. I didn't even know that. But I thought that was really funny. When I heard he was starting, I just started laughing. I'm like, that's just funny. So watching him have a great game. He was average, Greg Monroe, but what do you expect? Like I said, but there's just not a lot to say in that Game 3. It was what it was. Nets, I felt like the Nets should have been more aggressive. They should have played more like the desperate team, being that this was the first home game back in Brooklyn in over 4 years. And I don't know. They just kind of came out a little flat. They didn't come out the way I really thought they would. They didn't play the way I thought they would in that game, and they really got dominated throughout the whole game. And I said, "Wow, what a really disappointing performance at home and everything." But I knew that they were going to come out really aggressive and play really hard in Game 4. So now let's just look at Game 4. So there's a lot of storylines with Game 4. There's Karis LeVert's great play. There's Joel Embiid playing again on one knee. There's obviously the altercation when Embiid fouled Jared Allen really hard, and Jared Dudley came to his rescue and defended him, and they got in that fight and all that stuff, the talking between Simmons and Dudley. A lot to go over. So let's just start off by talking about the Dudley Simmons thing, since that's what a lot of people like to talk about. Obviously, it started when Jared Dudley, kind of said that. Well, it really started when Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid laughed about the elbow to Jared Allen back in Game 1, and obviously Embiid was trying to apologize, but kind of not wholeheartedly, and Ben Simmons just started laughing, and so Jared Dudley wanted to try to start up problems, trying to defend his player, trying to get into the head of Ben Simmons by saying that he's a great player in transition, but he's average at best in the half court. A couple things with that statement. First and foremost, the fact that you're trying to antagonize a passive player is really dumb, Jared. And what do I mean by that? I just got done talking about how sometimes Ben Simmons and the rest of those great 76ers players kind of become left out of the equation because of how great Joel Embiid is. And even when Embiid's not playing, sometimes Ben Simmons, once again, becomes passive, just brings the ball up, passes the ball off, and gets forgotten about. Last thing that someone like that needs when you're playing against them is to remind them that, hey, you're really, really damn good, and you should be aggressive. So that's what happened in Game 3. That's why Ben Simmons came out as aggressive as he did, because Jared Dudley talked crap about him, and let's be honest, he lit a fire under Ben Simmons, a fire that did not need to be lit, because I would have taken a pass with Ben Simmons in Game 3. Why'd you have to do that, Jared? But he did it because he was trying to get into the young kid's head, because, Ben Simmons is 22 and Jared Dudley's the savvy veteran, and also trying to defend Jared Allen. And the same thing happened with the flagrant foul in Game 4. Hard foul by Joel Embiid. It's the second time that has happened in this game. Jared Dudley steps up, confronts him, they get into altercation. Jimmy Butler pushes him. Technicals are going out there. Flagrants are going out there. Dudley and Butler get ejected, and I think it was great. I loved what Jared Dudley did in Game 4. I wasn't thrilled about him talking crap about Ben Simmons going into Game 3, but I loved his response. I love that he didn't shy away from Ben Simmons. He was making threes, put his hands up in the air like this, just like Ben Simmons did when he airballed the three in Game 3, looking right at it, literally said, bring it. Telling Ben Simmons, bring it. And that was awesome. Jared Dudley is literally like the ninth most important player on the Nets at times, and he's trying to just get into the head of the 76ers, and it kind of worked. And obviously, that's what the 76ers feel. That's what Joel Embiid feels, which is why Joel Embiid had his post-game comment in which he said, Jared Dudley's a nobody. When nobody's tried to get, in our heads, and they tried to make us, get us out of the game because, we're more important, and we're better than the nobodies, and Jared Dudley isn't even worth breathing oxygen. Basically, that was what he was saying. He was just saying that Jared Dudley is an irrelevant player. And I get his point. And he's just trying to go after the star players like Embiid to try to get him ejected or get him in trouble or get him to do something that she shouldn't do. And but guess what, Joel? It kind of worked because Jimmy Butler pushed him and he got ejected. Woohoo! So good job, Jared Dudley. Like, you want to know something? I kind of think that was the case too. I think Jared Dudley was trying to defend Jared Allen as well, but also was like in the back of his mind being like, let me really escalate this, because if I get ejected, it is what it is. I'm standing up for my player, and I'm Jared Dudley. If I can get into Joel Embiid's head or Ben Simmons' head, or in this case, get Jimmy Butler to do something and get ejected, it's going to help our team. So I love it. I love it. I love it. It's a genius move, and I love the fact that Jared Dudley stood up for his player, but also the fact that he tried to get into the head of Simmons and Embiid. I love it that he didn't back down from Simmons. He didn't say, you know what, I'm Mr. Nobody, and you're Ben Simmons. No, he's just like, bring it. I'm going to play tough. I'm going to play aggressive. I'm going to play my game, do my thing, and I'm going to try to make you beat me, which in the long run the 76ers did, but honestly, it didn't really have as much to do with Ben Simmons in Game 4 as it did more Joel Embiid. So I feel like Ben Simmons was like, come on, man, really? And I love it. I love it. It showed the toughness. So I really love what Jared Dudley did in Game 4. He had him kind of act that way after he said what I felt was stupid before going into Game 3, but when it's all said and done, I love him standing up for his player. I love him going after Joel Embiid. I love for him basically trying to be that nobody that's trying to be somebody, and I really thought it was great. And when it was all said and done, Embiid did the right thing. He didn't react to it, but Butler did, and it helped. I mean, the Nets still lost. If the Nets would have won that game, I think everyone would have looked at that play and said, Jared Dudley, that was amazing. But it is what it is, and it's just one of those things that the Nets just showed. And I'm going to say this now about this series so far. Basically, Game 4. After Game 4, not so much Game 3 or Game 2, but I could not have been more proud of the Nets in Game 4. I really couldn't. They did everything they possibly could. Yes, they made a couple of mistakes at the end of the game, some costly turnovers, by LeVert and Allen twice. And, that last play where Allen got swarmed, he should have called a timeout. That's it. I mean, I thought he got fouled, But in that situation, it wasn't that super clear, and the refs really got to blow the whistle there. Allen should have called a timeout. Actually, you know what? I don't think they actually had any more timeouts at that point. I don't think they had any more timeouts. So maybe that's why he didn't. I have to actually go back. I have the game DVR. I'm going to look into that. Actually, I don't think the Nets had any more timeouts. So I get it. I get why he did it. But when it's all said and done, you got to make a better play. You got to try to get it out of there. I don't know. That was a tough play. And the play before, though, with LeVert throwing the ball to Russell, who tipped off his hands and went out of bounds. Play before that, Allen throwing the ball out of bounds. Just mistake. But the funny thing about it is, even with those mistakes, the Nets are still up 2 and 1 stop away from winning the game. But what happens? Triple team Embiid, because it has to be done, kicks out to Mike Scott, of all people, and give credit to Mike Scott. He made an open 3. That's what he's supposed to do. So, the game really could have ended completely different. It didn't. So when it's all said and done, it's just frustrating, but I am pleased because, look, the Nets did everything they possibly could. They had an amazing performance by Karis LeVert, which I can't talk about how great it is to see him play like this. This is what we are hoping for moving forward, and I love it. I think LeVert, I said this before, he's a star player in the making. If he can stay healthy and continue to play the way like this, he's going to be a star on this team. And a backcourt of him and Russell could be lethal down the stretch. If you in a couple years when they really get the rest of their maturity going and they get their aspects of their games. But we're not going to talk about that right now. Love what I saw from LeVert. Dinwiddie played fantastic off the bench. And Russell hit some big shots here and there and did everything he could as well. Allen responded very well. Yes, he still got beat up by Joel Embiid, but he had 21 and 8 and was actually a presence. I mean, Jared Dudley did his thing and got in the head of the 76ers. The Nets played great, and they still lost. And that's just to summarize the differences between the teams. I'm sorry. The 76ers are just simply better. All right, we talked about it before. And everyone talks about it, and it's the truth. The 76ers are just the better team. Because in no way possible could the Nets have done. I mean, just look at everything that went in its favor in that game. Butler gets ejected. Jared Dudley plays well, getting grit and toughness. LeVert has one of the best games of his career. Dinwiddie plays well off the bench. Russell hits big threes. Jared Allen and big shots. Jared Allen had a very good game, 21 and 8. They got production from a lot of people. Yes, Joe Harris still was struggling, but other than Joe Harris making his threes, the Nets played almost a perfect game for them, and they still lost because that's just the difference in talent. The Nets need to play great basketball, and the 76ers need to play below average basketball for the Nets to win, and that's the way it was in Game 1. In Game 1, the Nets played great basketball. 76ers played below average, if not failing basketball, because they really did not play well in Game 1. That's why the Nets won. Game 2, Nets played great until that third quarter, and then they played like crap, and the 76ers played great basketball. Game 2, Nets played average, 76ers played great, and in Game 3, the Nets played average, 76ers played great, and in Game 4, the Nets played great, but the 76ers played above average. And I'm going to be honest, I feel like that's all they did, is the 76ers just played an above average game for them. But that's the difference. An above average performance by the 76ers is at the same level as a great game by the Nets. That's just the talent level. For the Nets to win games, they have to play great, and the 76ers have to play average or below average. And it just didn't happen. So that's why when you look at everything that happened in that Game 4, and for the Nets to still lose, it was very gut-wrenching. It's very upsetting. But you want to know something? It's not shocking because the 76ers are the better team. They are. And like I said, LeVert, amazing performance. Dinwiddie played well. Russell made some big plays. They held J.J. Redick in check. J.J. did not have a good game. Tobias Harris had an okay game. Butler gets ejected. Ben Simmons had an okay game. It was really just Joel Embiid doing what he does best, being one of those dominant players in the league. And a big shot by Mike Scott and some costly turnovers at the end of the game. But when it's all said and done, I still feel good about how the Nets played in Game 4. That being said, let's look ahead at Game 5. Look, I don't have much confidence that the Nets are going to win Game 5. The way I look at it is if they didn't win Game 4, like I just said this like 17 times already, I'm going to say it again. They didn't win Game 4. I don't see how they're going to win Game 5. If they can, that'd be great. If not, I think it's going to wrap up in Philly Tuesday night. And we'll just move on. So let me know what you guys think about the whole Jared Dudley, Ben Simmons thing, the Joe Embiid calling Jared Dudley, nobody. Let me know what you guys feel about that, how you felt about the play of LeVert, the whole team, what you thought of the series so far, what you think, if you actually believe that the Nets have a chance to somehow win Game 5 and Game 6 and somehow win the series. I don't think any logical basketball fan has any belief that the Nets are going to do that. They might be able to somehow win Game 5 on the road and then maybe somehow pull off another win in Game 6. But I just, for the Nets to win 3 in a row at this point against this 76ers team, it's just not going to happen. I mean, who knows, though, because, Ed Davis didn't play because he was hurt. So maybe he'll be back by Tuesday. I'm not sure. But if he's back by Tuesday and they play in Game 5, maybe he's the difference maker. I mean, it's why you play the game. I mean, you play the game to play the game because you don't know what's going to happen. If not, we would have just said the series is over, 76ers advance. But I just don't have a lot of confidence. I'm just going to go into Game 5 with, just enjoyment. I'm just saying, you know what, Nets? Just go out swinging, play hard, play like you played in Game 4. If you lose, you lose. But try to at least go out with your head held high, with your fists punching and Jared Dudley fighting and all that good stuff. That's all I ask for at this point. So keep your eyes open for the next NetsBoy episode. It's either going to be after Game 5 or Game 6, depending on obviously what happens in the series. So keep your eyes open for that. Let me know what you guys think. And until then, this is NetsBoy. Gonna crack open a beer because after that last loss, that's a tough one. And signing off.